going to give them just about 10, 15 seconds just to introduce themselves, and start with Rianne.
Hi everyone, my name's Rianne Gordon and I'm running for Vice President of Harrow. Some of you may have seen me already because I ran last year, so I want to continue on what I feel is good work next year. So, yeah.
And I'm Sophie, I'm running against Rianne in the VP of Harrow elections, and I'm currently a radio student in my final year.
Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we're just going to crack on straight into the first question. Thank you. Both of you mentioned studio hours. Rianne last year and Sophie this year. Rianne, can you tell us how the campaign has been going? And Sophie, what would you plan to do differently to Rianne to ensure this happens? Yeah, please.
Okay, so the mic's gone off, but I'll keep talking. I don't know. So obviously it was something that was on my manifesto last year, and although there's not been a visible campaign, contrary to a popular belief, it doesn't mean that I haven't been working on this. It just means I've readjusted my approach to this. I mean, I wanted to campaign for longest 2 hours across the whole term, but it seemed very unfeasible. It's not something that can happen realistically, so I've changed my angle to just campaigning for it to be extended during peak times of the year and when there's a greater demand for it. And I've approached the faculty with this, and they're happy with it, they're encouraging it, they're kind of being my advocates, I guess, and we're speaking to university at the moment, so it's something that is currently ongoing, but it's behind closed doors, so although it may not seem like I'm doing anything, I'm definitely pushing for it still, so yeah.
Sophie, to you, I'll repeat the question. What would you plan to do differently to what Rianne has done to ensure this happens?
I think it's really important that the students know about the campaign and just push, because they do want a say on it. You know, a lot of students have come to not just Rianne, to, you know, it's something that has been told so much of, that people want to be able to edit at all times of the day. And I think because students these days are paying £9,000 a year, you know, they should be able to have the access to studios for when works best for them and editing suites. So they need to be able to do it. So I think just pushing for petitions and just getting the students aware of the campaign so that they can get behind it, because I think there's a real need for it.
Thank you. I've got a question here for Rianne. Can you give us some examples of development opportunities you've already provided, and what would you add to them?
Well, the biggest thing, the main thing that I've been working on in terms of development opportunities is a networking event, as well as manifests. And although they've not happened yet, they're going to be happening March 19th and March 20th. So if you guys want to come. But I've been working on those throughout the year. There was a creative careers fair last October, I think it was, and I made some good contacts then, and they're all happy to come on board as well. And additionally, I've been working on Inspired by Westminster, which is a website allowing students to showcase their work and hopefully sell their work as well. That's currently undergoing, so that will be launched around April time, hopefully, if things go well. So all the big things that I've been working on are yet to come.
Now a question to you, Sophie. Security is a problem. A cash machine was stolen when it was first installed. How will you ensure that this isn't a stumbling block when asking for vending machines or other things like that?
Well, I think we need to invest money into cameras and lights so that the street isn't so dark, because when you're there at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're taking a trip to the toilet, it's actually quite dark along the street, and it needs to have a warmer feel, because although it is a street, it actually feels like a street outside there. It doesn't feel like a warm street that's in the middle of the campus, which is kind of like the heart of the campus. You know, you get from fashion to media, it is the heart of the campus. So I think we need to have more cameras and lights and safety. And recently the LGBT Society did a report, and 80% of students said they only felt safe 80% of the time. So students said 80% of the time they only felt safe. So why are students only feeling safe 80% of the time, when actually, you know, there's 20% of the time that they're not feeling safe? That shouldn't be happening at the university at all.
So you talk about investing in lights, investing in cameras, but you also mentioned that printing was too expensive. How would you go about cutting the cost of printing without? How would you go about cutting the costs of printing? Wouldn't something else have to be more expensive to make that up?
Well, I mean, if, printing, if we take a look at this room, there's approximately 50 student elections posters in A3 size, and if you went to the university to print them off as a student, that would have cost me £35 to do today. Should we have to pay £35 to be able to print 50 posters off? Not really, when we're paying £9,000 a year to study here. Some students maybe don't use their £15 budget because of the things that they do on their course that doesn't actually need them to print off like as much as anyone else. But some courses such as, design, art, I know radio, TV, they need to be able to print scripts because they need to have a physical copy. And, if that means we have to, we have to work with the university to enhance it so it's not £15, it's £25, or it differs across different courses, then that's something I'm going to work towards, because I know that that's what students sometimes suffer with cost and being able to afford things.
Rianne, do you have an input on that?
Yeah, obviously, it is a good idea, and students do kind of get quite frustrated with it. I agree with that. That's a good point. I think as well that there are there are implications that can come from that. If like you said, if that means that it's cheaper, it could mean that something else is more expensive, some kind of service for the students. But I think a way to get around that is by speaking to the faculty. I've been working really, really hard to build up a relationship with the faculty, and kind of a benefit of this has meant that they're a lot more understanding of students' needs, and they're a lot more willing to help students. Sometimes it's quite they're quite reluctant to change if it means that if it's going to do something that they don't want to do, but they've become very more receptive to students and students' needs and stuff like this as well. If students are unhappy, it means that they're less likely to give good scores in NSS and stuff like that. So that's a way that you can approach it to the university or to the faculty itself, and to kind of say it in a way that will actually kind of mean something to them rather than just for the students, because that way it helps to get more change and a lot more improvements a lot quicker. So it's kind of just saying to the university, if you make it cheaper, this is why it's good for you as well. So that's how I'd do it.
I'm going to open the floor out to anyone from the audience that has a question for either of these two. Question?
Yeah, hi. When you talked about, sorry, not Rianne, I don't know the other candidate's name, I apologise. Sophie, I apologise. Sophie, when you talked about we're paying £9,000, we should be subsidised on, printing costs and everything. I think you're failing to remember that we were already being paid. The university was already being paid £9,000. We were just being paid subsidies from the government itself. So we were paying £3 grand, but the government paid the rest. So the university always got the same amount of money. So just because we have to pay more now doesn't necessarily mean that we should get more for it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I definitely take that into account. But when a student thinks about coming to university, the cost in front of the student is a lot more now. So, I paid £3,000, and it's a lot different to paying £9,000 a year. But it's definitely something you consider, because if you're looking through on the university website, you can see that it costs 35p a print, or 25p for a colour print, and 70p for A3. And, if you're going to be doing a lot of printing, or this, then it could affect whether you decide to come to the university, I guess, for prospective students.
I've got two questions. Can I ask you? Excellent. Basically, obviously, you just slightly touched on it, but hidden course costs, which has always been a big problem at Harrow with media courses, things like fashion, that and filming, TV, and you end up with a situation where we have to have people lining the streets selling donuts for 50p and stuff, trying to finance their film projects. It was mentioned last year in your manifesto, Rianne. It was also mentioned in Jenny Ibanez's previous tenure as the VP of Harrow. What would you both do to actually physically make those hidden course costs a lot more transparent, so that, as you've mentioned, Sophie, that when students do start thinking about coming to Westminster, they actually know exactly financially what they're getting themselves into, as opposed to coming with sort of no extra financial resources and then having to do things like selling cans of Coke 50p on the street to try to go some way to finance their projects. And secondly, in terms of social space in Harrow, obviously Harrow is going through major renovation at the moment, but there's talks about us losing the Undercroft bar, and I just think that it's, even though, as this gentleman over there mentioned, that paying £9,000 a year means that the university is not actually making any more money from us, I do think that the fact that we've lost a bar from central London and now we're about to lose another bar in Harrow is a bit outrageous, and I think that like basically what I want to know is what exactly are you going to do to proactively fight that loss from it, because I understand that of 23,000 students, not everyone wants to drink and go to parties and stuff, but in Harrow, there is that kind of environment where people congregate in the bar and people socialise in the bar a lot, and I think it's just a bit nuts that we're going to end up losing it. Yeah, that's it, really. I'll stop talking.
Okay, so going back to the first question.
So basically, in answer to your first question with regards to hidden course costs, I am currently sitting on a university committee, and transparency with kind of the things that students transparency of what students should expect during their time at Harrow, more specifically, has been something that's been discussed quite a lot and at great length as well. This year, they are hoping to bring, I mean, I don't know if this is the same for everyone, but when I was first year, before I started, I got a lot of promotional material from the university before I started in the summer and stuff, and it had various different information about the Students' Union, about the university, and whatever else. And they're hoping to add something additional to that, to kind of give a breakdown of what things to expect, what kind of things you may be expected to kind of pay for, or what kind of other things, basically like what you're going to have to pay alongside your tuition fees in order to do well within your course. So that's something that we're already working on at the moment. And in answer to your second question about the bar, there has been a lot of discussion about it amongst the students at Harrow, but it's not something that is actually happening. The bar is doing a lot better than it did last year, and although, because a lot of students have been approaching me about this and asking what's happening, and I have spoken to our current acting CEO and venue and events manager, and that's something that they kind of want to squash within the student community at Harrow, because a lot of students are getting quite nervous about this possible losing of the bar. But obviously, with intermission being lost last year, I think it was, the year before maybe, and that kind of brought along quite a lot of outrage within the students as well. So we're not prepared to allow the university to take the Undercroft bar, sorry, talking too quickly. Yes, we're not prepared to allow the university to take the Undercroft bar, so that's not something that's going to happen. And to make sure that doesn't happen, we are speaking to the relevant stakeholders within the university.
Looking at hidden course costs, I think, yeah, we need to let students know about it. And fundraising is a big part of people's courses, especially when you're doing film and TV and art courses. You know, you have to do some fundraising. And one of my points on my manifesto is to create a newsletter based just for Harrow students, because there is so much going on at Harrow campus. It's such a big community, and sometimes you can get lost in it all because there's so much, and you get lost in your little group, and sometimes you're not able to go out there and see what's going on. So the newsletter would be able to, you know, it would be there weekly, every fortnight, just to show students what's going on and give them the access to what else is out there.
We've actually run out of time, so we're just going to go to the... We've run out of time, sorry. We're just going to go to the closing statements, starting with you, Sophie. Any closing statements you want to make?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for listening and coming here today. I think if you want 24-hour opening times and if you want to see a change, one of my manifesto points is on the CPA as well. So just check out my manifesto online. I think that's the best thing to do.
Kind of following on from that as well, please do have a look at my manifesto. I would have liked to have had an opportunity to kind of give you kind of an idea of what things I'm working on, but please have a look at my manifesto online on UWSU.com, and you know, I'm still around, and please come and approach me in the street or anywhere on campus really. If you see me, come and talk to me.